Hello, you're watching Sometime This Week. I'm your host, Max Mandile.
I'm Dan O'Brien.
And for our last instalment ever, we're going to start with the news from Angelina.
Then we'll have Danielle coming in to present her 3-minute thesis.
And then we'll have the sports report from the Tallon Smith.
Big show coming up, guys. First up, we'll have Angelina with the news. Over to you, Angelina.
Thanks, Dan. In today's news, 2 days after a ceasefire took effect in Gaza, thousands have joined pro-Palestinian rallies in towns and cities across Australia. Demonstrators in Sydney and Hobart heard from participants and relatives of those detained by Israel for taking part in a flotilla of Gaza. While many welcomed the ceasefire, protesters called for continued global support and humanitarian aid for the Palestinian people. A heritage-listed Wollongong hotel has become the site of an unusual protest. Outside the Illawarra Hotel in the city CBD, 5 potted palm trees have been strapped to the poles, marking the nearby palm tree upper pole art installation. The permanent display featuring 3 cabbage tree palms was installed by Wollongong City Council in 2017 at a cost of $620,000. Truck driver Mosa Vaimula will stand trial over a fatal collision north of Wollongong involving a BMW. He has pleaded not guilty to dangerous driving, occasioning the death of Michael Isako. The trial is scheduled for 2027. As we transition from spring to summer, it is the cricket season here down under. Australia is hosting India for a 3-match ODI series and 5 T20 internationals. Later this summer, the Aussies will take on traditional rivals, England, in a 5-test Ashes series from December to January. In the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup, Australia remain firm favourites after a nail-biting win over India on Sunday. The Aussies chased down a massive 330-run target to keep their dominant streak alive. Wollongong will host the World Triathlon Championship 2025. Over 5 days, 13 races will be held, including the elite and under-23 categories, attracting top athletes from all around the world. Now for the weather. It's shaping up to be a beautiful sunny day across the region with clear skies and no chance of rain. Perfect outdoor conditions. We're heading for a top of 25 degrees with light to moderate east to northeasterly winds around 20 to 30 kilometers per hour. Sun protection is recommended from 9:20 this morning through until 4 o'clock this afternoon, as the UV index is set to reach 8 today. All in all, a warm, sunny and breezy afternoon ahead of for Wollongong, perfect spring weather. Back to you in the studio.
And that was Angelina with the news.
Coming up next, we have Danielle Cozier in to present her 3-minute thesis.
Imagine needing to open your bowels 20 times a day. You experience gut pain and urgency, and you're always planning your life around your proximity to a toilet. Your joints ache, you're exhausted, and you live with the constant anxiety of your disease flaring up all the time. Even eating becomes stressful. Will this sandwich give me gut pain? Will this salad make things worse? Well, this could be the daily reality for 180,000 Australians living with inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD. IBD is a chronic autoimmune disorder that causes inflammation in the digestive tract, and there are 2 main types: Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. IBD is treated with medications that work to reduce the inflammation, but they don't work for everyone. Up to 30% of people don't respond to the medications. They live with continuous inflammation and often debilitating symptoms. Even many people who do respond well to medications live with ongoing symptoms that impact their quality of life. With a disease that can feel so out of control, one thing people can take charge of is their diet. But here's the problem. We still don't know what the best diet is for managing inflammation in IBD. That's the question I've been trying to answer in my research. Now, in a study I recently conducted amongst Australian adults with IBD, I found that diet was strongly linked to the types of bacteria living in the gut. Those who had healthier, more anti-inflammatory diets had more of the good bacteria. Those who had less healthy diets had more bad bacteria. Now, in other human diseases, we know that these good bacteria have powerful anti-inflammatory effects by interacting with the immune system in the gut. But in IBD, the impact of gut bacteria on chronic inflammation has remained largely unexplored, until now. So what if we could shift the balance of gut bacteria and reduce chronic inflammation with something as simple as food? Well, I'm running a 3-month clinical trial to test exactly that. we're testing a new symbiotic therapy, a combination of anthocyanins, which are a natural anti-inflammatory compound found in black currants and other foods that give a blue, red and purple colour, alongside probiotics, which are the good bacteria. The goal is to see whether this powerful nutrition duo can improve gut bacteria, reduce inflammation and improve quality of life. This is the first trial to explore both an anthocyanin-rich food together with probiotics in ulcerative colitis. And the results could lay the groundwork for personalised dietary therapies that work alongside medical management to reduce inflammation, support gut health, and improve symptoms. It's exciting to think that something as simple as diet, like adding in a supplement or eating more of the right food, could significantly help people with IBD feel better. People with IBD are asking, what should I be eating? And I'm excited to be part of the research that's finally giving them answers.
That was Cseuz presenting her 3-minute thesis. Danelle, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
So Danelle, what is IBD and what makes it different from IBS?
It's a great question. The two conditions are commonly mixed up. IBD stands for inflammatory bowel disease. It's a chronic autoimmune disorder, and so what that means is it results in inflammation anywhere in the digestive tract, which comes all the way from the mouth all the way through to the anus. The fact that it's autoimmune, what that means is that the body attacks the lining of the digestive system. It's not working, there's a dysregulation in immune functioning over lots of inflammation happening. And so there is two main types of this disease. There's Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. And the difference between them is Crohn's disease is very commonly found in the small intestine. It's typically a bit more severe. There's lots of different, it can cause more severe inflammation throughout the small intestine. Ulcerative colitis is found in the colon, which is the large intestine alone. It's a disease that is chronic. Once someone is diagnosed, they go through periods of relapse, which means the disease flares up and they're in states of active inflammation, and periods of remission where we get the disease under control. And so it's a very difficult disease to live with because it results in a lot of gut symptoms, so things like diarrhea, pain, urgency, and also just lots of other things that come with having chronic inflammation like fatigue, a whole host of symptoms that can be quite debilitating. And so people kind of live with this up and down cycle of the disease throughout their life. IBS stands for irritable bowel syndrome. It is not an inflammatory or immune disorder. It's a condition that is diagnosed when people have just lots of gut symptoms like constipation, diarrhea, pain, and that. It's not related to the body attacking its own cells or not related to chronic inflammation. It's more of a cluster of symptoms. And so the treatment is different. It doesn't result in as many symptoms and sort of severity of side effects as having IBD, and it doesn't require medications that suppress the immune system to treat it, which is what IBD needs. Yeah.
Danelle, you said there's periods of relapse and remission. How long are those periods typically?
It's very different, very individual for every person. Some people who don't respond to, or often when people are first diagnosed, they've been in these states of inflammation for quite a while. It could be a year or so, and it can take a while to figure out what sort of medications will bring them back into non-inflammatory state, remission. But some people, can not respond to medications and be in low level or high level inflammation for quite a while. Other people can have quite a well-controlled disease and go, years without having any of these flare-ups. And so it's very, depends on the severity of the disease and how well they're responding to the medical management. Yeah.
And what led you to this area of research? Was it something you found was understudied or?
So it is understudied, but so when I started my PhD, it was going to be in a slightly different topic. That research area fell through. It was still in the gut health space. And so I had the opportunity to decide what I wanted to research. And my husband has ulcerative colitis, so one of the forms of IBD. And so seeing how much it impacts people who live with the disease and how difficult it is to navigate dietary choices and what to eat and the symptoms and all of that. So there was that personal influence. And then I started looking into the research and realizing there's so much more that we need to look at, and there's so much that is still unknown about IBD and particularly diet inflammation. So that's where we sort of decided to go with the PhD.
And in terms of the research itself, like the methodology, how do you go about it?
So my PhD has consisted of 4 separate studies. We started off with a systematic review, which is looking at all of the literature out there to try to understand in other human conditions actually how effective things like probiotics and symbiotics are in the gut, and we're trying to understand and scope out what's already known about the impact of these gut therapies on gut microbiome and inflammation. And then from there, I conducted 2 different dietary studies where we had access to a very large, about 1,000 participants from Australia who had IBD and also healthy controls. And we looked at what was their diet, how was what they were eating, or was it related to inflammatory levels, to symptoms, and to the gut bacteria, just to try to understand what the relationship was there. And then my final study, which I'm kind of just in the process of working through the results of that now, is a clinical trial where we decided to supplement an anthocyanin-rich powder, which has come from blackcurrant berries, and a probiotic. And that is because both of those separate products have shown effects on the gut bacteria and possibilities to be useful in IBD, but we need further research to understand how effective they really are. And so we supplemented them together so we had our participants take these supplements for 3 months. We tested their inflammation levels, their gut microbiome through a stool sample at the start and the end of the study, symptoms, how they were feeling, and then we're just working through the results of that study now. So that's sort of a culmination of the other studies. Yeah.
And so what have you found so far, like through all that?
So we found that, so in the first big study I looked at, we found that different symbiotic therapies that target the gut bacteria can have an impact on inflammation in other human conditions, some sort of effect. When I was moving on to looking at the large dietary studies that I did in my second and third study, we found that the results were not entirely clear. There was some nutrients or some sort of ways of eating which seemed beneficial for people's diet and their inflammation, and the others just seemed there wasn't any direct relationship there. And that could be because the design of that study was we looked at one snapshot in time. It's called cross-sectional. So we just looked at what you eat on this day and what your result is on this day. And so we didn't have an element of time to track, okay, well, if they're eating like this for a large period of time, what impact does that have on their diet? So there's quite a complex results from that study. But we did see that in one of my studies that those who had healthier ways of eating, which means they're eating more fruits, more vegetables, more kind of coloured plants, more and then less of unhealthier foods, which are a bit more processed and have more saturated fats and all of that, they had better bacteria profiles in their gut. Yeah. Whilst those bacteria profiles weren't related to the inflammatory status, we know that having a good gut bacteria is beneficial for health, well-being, for symptoms. And so that was really exciting finding, and that there is somehow that diet is impacting their gut bacteria. But we need to understand more how we can kind of foster a good gut bacteria. I'm still working through the results of my final study, and so don't really have too much to share on that front yet. We're getting our gut data for that back towards the end of the year, and so that will be where we're really hoping to see that the supplements we've given them have been able to change the gut bacteria. That's what we're hoping. So building on from that other study, and that we know that diet does impact the gut bacteria, we're hoping to see that after giving them these supplements, it has increased the number of beneficial bacteria. Whether or not that's made them feel better or reduce inflammation, it's still a really useful finding to know that what they're putting in their bodies is bettering the kind of bacteria that's living in their gut. Yeah.
So I suppose in terms of like big picture end goal, is the goal here to find a way to extend those periods of remission and alleviate symptoms for longer, or is it more a cure for IBD?
Not at this stage a cure. There's not really anything that can kind of cure this condition, because once it's sort of triggered, it's the way the immune system is operating in the gut. But we definitely want to improve people's symptoms and improve their quality of life, and that usually corresponds with them being in those remission periods for longer. So we're really looking at reducing the inflammation, managing that, and definitely alongside medical management. It's such a severe disease that they do need medications. Most people need medications to really control it. But we know that diet can also have an effect alongside. So we're looking at the kind of adjunct effect that diet's going to have. In all of this, we're also just wanting to improve the quality of the diet these people are consuming, improve the number of beneficial nutrients they're having, because what else has come out in my research is that similar to most the general Australian population, the participants I've looked at with IBD don't have very great quality diets to begin with, aren't eating enough fruits, vegetables, dairies, they're eating too many kind of processed discretionary foods, which isn't great for general public, but for people who have an imbalance of gut bacteria and all these other things going on, it's particularly concerning for us. So we're wanting, to send a message out there of we need to support people to have a healthier diet in general as well.
Yeah. You said once it's triggered, so is this something people are born with, or is it a result of poor diet, gut health later on?
Great question. The cause of IBD is not entirely known. There's a couple of different factors that likely play a role. Genetics is one of it. So there are certain genes that people are born with that can code for getting IBD later in life. So it can be hereditary to a degree. But what seems to happen with this, and it seems similar with other autoimmune conditions, is that there sometimes is something that triggers these genes to cause the disease to start happening. So people aren't born with IBD. With the one that I was looking at, ulcerative colitis, it's commonly diagnosed in like earlier to mid-adulthood. So it's thought to be a relationship between the genetic predisposition, some sort of environmental factors, whether that's diet, whether that's something else in our kind of other chemicals or toxins we're exposed to, as well as the immune system getting dysregulated. So something's it's like a combination of these things, triggers the immune system to start attacking itself. It's interesting, Australia has one of the highest incidence and prevalence rates of IBD in the world. So per sort of head of population, we have the highest amount, or one of the highest amounts of this disease. And it's quite high in Western countries. And getting the rates of the disease are getting higher in countries that are becoming more westernized. So there's something about our lifestyle environment that seems to be kind of triggering more of this in people who have the genetic susceptibility.
Is there any theory behind that that's well studied, or is it just?
Diet is definitely one of them. That's probably the what I'm most familiar with. I'm not sure whether any other environmental things have been researched, but we know that having what we call a Western type diet, which is, I think if you sort of picture quite a bit of processed foods, foods that come from lots of packets, higher in saturated fats, takeaways, all of that, less of foods that we're cooking, more, fruits, vegetables in their whole food format, lots of red meats, all of that as well in that Western diet. There's quite a few studies which have shown that consuming a Western diet increases risk of getting IBD compared to more healthier diets that maybe other populations in the world follow. So diet is one proposed environmental factor which increases risk of it.
Okay, so reading between the lines of it, you think processed food?
More than processed food, foods high in saturated fat, trans fat. So if we look at the Australian Dietary Guidelines, which is majority of our diet should be coming from good sources of dairy, meat that's both, lean meats, poultry, as well as a bit of red meat, whole grains, so having the brown components of rice, brown bread, all of that, less of the white grain components. Fruits and vegetables, the majority of our diet should be coming from that. That would be the healthier diet. When we're not consuming enough of those types of foods and other things like, white or more processed foods, or a lack of fruits and vegetables, more fatty sources of meats, bacons, all of that, that's more of the Western diet. So we often recommend for people who have a genetic predisposition towards IBD, like they have a parent or family member with it, it's really important for them to be consuming a healthy diet, because maybe that might just be what it needs so that they don't develop the disease.
Yeah. You've touched on it a little bit before and a lot there, obviously, but is there specific foods you're finding alleviate the symptoms of IBD?
Not as much in my research, but the reason for what I was researching specifically, so I looked at a number of different types of foods in my thesis, but have focused mostly on foods that have quite a profound impact on the gut bacteria, specifically dietary fibres, which come from fruits and vegetables and legumes and lentils, as well as those brown parts of grains that I was mentioning. And then I've mentioned before as well this big word anthocyanin, which is a compound that is naturally found in blue, purple, red coloured food. So think about purple carrots, all of these bright coloured berries, black currants, blueberries, all of that. It is one type of polyphenol, which is a broader class of what we call bioactives, these components in plant foods which have an active impact on our body. I've researched polyphenols a bit because they, in other human conditions, and even in animal studies, so some mice and rat studies, particularly these anthocyanins, have shown to feed gut bacteria. So they make their way largely intact to the colon, which is where the largest proportion of bacteria in our gut live. So less in the small intestine, more in the colon. They make their way there, and they're actually a food source for bacteria. They break down and they feed off polyphenols, and that encourages them to grow more. So we want to feed the gut bacteria foods that means that they can grow more. So I've specifically focused on that diet-gut kind of connection, which is focused on dietary fibres and polyphenols and their probiotics, which gives the bacteria into the gut. What that means for food is I've more looked at the supplement sort of space, a little bit of food, bit of supplements in my final study. But we, in the future, if we find positive effects of things like supplementing in these berries in a powder, we obviously want to look at how do we get that in a food format. So how do we help people to have more purple foods, more foods that are rich in these polyphenols, which is also what is a healthy dietary pattern for them.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for your time. So you're doing really important research.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Now we're sitting here with Renzo Delgado of the band Hi Cats. How are you, Renzo?
In pain. How are you?
In pain?
How are you, man?
I'm well. How are you?
Run that by me.
I picked something heavy, and then I couldn't walk the day after.
Oh.
And now I'm in a lot of pain.
Well, I'm
But
sorry
it's
to hear
okay.
that.
It's getting better.
Speaking of pain, you used to be in a band called Claims Make, which was, by the way, viewers at home, the greatest band in Wollongong until you broke up.
Yeah.
Tell me about Hi Cats. What's different? What's the same? What's better? What's worse, maybe?
I think. Hey, we got a synth. I have a soundboard now. I press the buttons and I put the lithium yeah at the show that we last played at Shedfest. I thought it was funny, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Obviously the sound too. I think it's more of what I actually really wanted to do. Before, when I was in Claimsmake, I think I just wrote songs that were very emotional and personal that I didn't really know about, and it was written subconsciously every single time. It wasn't until like a year after that I checked the lyrics and I was like, oh wow, this represents my entire life. And then now I just write songs about, what do I write songs about? Yeah, whatever comes to my mind.
Fair enough.
In a more fun, chaotic way.
Would you say there's much of a difference between being in a 3-piece like you were and now a 5-piece? Like, are there any like struggles that come with that? Are there things that maybe come easier from it?
I think both simplicity and having many people at the same time, they're both balance each other, so they're both just as fun.
Yeah.
But I think it's more about who you're with than how many people that are actually playing in the band, whether it's 3 or 5 or 6. Yeah.
So today you're going to be playing us a song called ADHD. Tell us about that. What's it about? And what's the deeper metaphor to it, maybe?
Deeper metaphor? Well, I haven't been diagnosed with ADHD before, but I think I've had it my entire life. And it showed in high school. And, right now still. I wrote the song, I think I wrote the song when I was in Claimsmake, actually, like years ago. And I kind of just kept it. I think I showed the guys, but maybe we were working on something else at the time, so we didn't use it. And then when I started this new band, I just brought it up, and I think they liked it. So this song is about the drummer, Lincoln, I think. But it kind of just reflects on me as well. Just how we, I guess, how would you say? Too much in our heads. Yeah. And then we can't concentrate. But then again, I don't really know how it works either. I just like the way it sounds, I think.
That sounds like ADHD to me.
Yeah,
definitely.
Check out this guy.
Symbolic.
Well, really keen to hear it, man. So up next we've got Renzo playing ADHD. Check out Hi Cats on Instagram and probably soon to be Spotify, right?
And Bandcamp. Yeah.
And Bandcamp and SoundCloud.
And SoundCloud.
And everywhere else.
And TikTok. I make
Damn.
GTA 5 highlights. Music. I hear it in my brain, as I hear each other canceling each other out. Boo, as I hear it in my brain, as I hear it in my brain, as I hear each other canceling each other out. You forget your time, forget your mind, and I don't blame you, but there's so much else to do. Can't forget much, it's passing by, and I don't blame you, but there's so much else to do. Bounce around, thought to thought, don't mind me, I'm so down. Bless my lips, give it in, let's release some precious time. Bounce around, thought to thought, don't mind me, I'm so down. Bless my lips, give it in, let's release some precious time. As I hear it in my brain, as I hear it in my brain, as I hear each other canceling each other out. Boo, as I hear it in my brain, as I hear it in my brain, as I hear each other canceling each other out. You forget your time, forget your mind, and I don't blame you, but there's so much else to do. Can't forget much, it's passing by, and I don't blame you, but there's so much else to do. Bounce around, thought to thought, don't mind me, I'm so down. Bless my lips, give it in, let's release some precious time. Bounce around, thought to thought, don't mind me, I'm so down. Bless my lips, give it in, let's release some precious time.
That was Sometime This Week, and sometimes the week has to come to a close, much like this episode, the final episode of Sometime This Week.
I've been Dan O'Brien.
And I've been Max Mandile.
Thank you so much for watching all semester.
And guys, keep on rocking in the free world.
Stop doing that.